Have you ever caught yourself looking around and just wondering, is this it? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a truly fascinating inward journey. We're going to demystify Carl Jung's framework for achieving psychological wholeness. If you've ever felt like you're just kind of going through the motions, or that there's this entire deeper layer to your personality just waiting to be unlocked, you are in the exact right place. We're looking at the architecture of the integrated self. So let's just get right into it.
Let's kick things off by exploring a really common, deeply relatable feeling. Why do we suddenly feel incomplete? You know exactly the feeling I'm talking about, right? That sense of midlife burnout or just this sudden, incredibly frustrating stagnation. It's like we hit a brick wall, even when we've successfully built the exact lives, the careers, and the relationships we always thought we wanted. You finally got the promotion, you bought the house, you did literally everything right, and yet there's this quiet tension building in the background. It's just this nagging feeling that something essential is missing.
To figure out why we feel that tension, we really need to strip away the daily noise and look at Carl Jung's core concept from his broader framework of analytical psychology. It's called individuation. Now, at its core, individuation is this lifelong psychological process of integrating the hidden parts of your personality so you can actually become whole. And to be clear, this isn't some quick fix or a weekend wellness retreat. No way. This is the ultimate inward hero's journey. It's simple in its structure, but man, is it complex in practice. Mainly because it asks us to stop looking outward for validation and start looking deeply, honestly, inward.
Section 1. The two layers of you, uncovering the psyche. To start this journey, I want you to think of your mind kind of like a house. On the ground floor, you've got the conscious layer, which Jung called the ego. This is basically your living room. It's the aware identity you proudly show off to guests. It manages your societal roles, it meets your boss's expectations, and presents this polished, hyper-capable face to the world. But right beneath that living room, there's a basement, the unconscious. This is a vast, totally hidden layer holding all those old memories, intense emotions, and unrecognized behavioral patterns. Individuation basically requires you to walk down into that basement, grab some of those hidden unconscious elements, and drag them upstairs into the light of your awareness so they can actually be understood instead of just ignored.
Section 2. The Midlife Wake-Up Call, the Trigger for Change.
If we map this journey across the human lifespan, a really fascinating pattern emerges. In our early years, we're almost entirely focused outward. We're actively building our identity, establishing a career, securing our social position. Essentially, we're decorating that ego's living room. But then comes midlife. The source material points out that this is exactly when that tension, that dissatisfaction, and that creeping sense that something is missing really kicks into overdrive. It forces you to question your earlier assumptions. But here's the key takeaway. This isn't a crisis. It's actually an invitation. It's a completely natural developmental trigger pushing you to look inward for meaning. And doing that work, that's what eventually leads to the later stages of life, which are characterized by true integration, wholeness, and a profoundly deeper sense of self. Section 3. Confronting your hidden shadow, facing the unknown dragons.
So, once we answer that midlife call to adventure and plunge into the unconscious basement, the absolute first crucial step is facing our internal dragons. Jung called this the shadow. Now, the shadow contains all the aspects of yourself that you reject or deny. Usually, we think of this as just the dark stuff, right? The anger, the jealousy, or those petty fears we absolutely don't want to admit we have. But get this, the shadow also contains undeveloped positive traits. These are wonderful parts of your personality. Maybe it's a wild, vibrant creativity that you completely shoved down because your ego decided you needed to be a serious, practical adult.
Because the core rule of the shadow is terrifyingly simple. What you ignore controls you. Let me say that again. What you ignore controls you. When your shadow remains unconscious and unexamined, it doesn't just politely pack up and leave. It influences your behavior indirectly. It pops out when you're stressed out, like sudden explosive road rage, making you react in ways that feel entirely out of your own control. But when you face that shadow directly, when you bravely acknowledge your anger, your jealousy, or even your hidden talents, you gain massive insight and drastically reduce your inner conflict. It's a total game changer.
Section 4. Balancing your inner qualities, the anima and animus.
As we continue our descent, individuation requires us to find harmony between opposing forces within us. Jung noted that to avoid becoming rigid and one-sided, we have to integrate inner psychological qualities that are traditionally associated with the opposite gender. Without integrating these opposing qualities, we just stay locked in a half version of ourselves. But with integration, incredible things start happening. Think of a highly analytical, intensely logical person learning to integrate their deep, nurturing empathy. Or maybe a naturally accommodating, agreeable person finally embracing their fierce, protective assertiveness. By merging these traits, we develop profound emotional depth, inner balance, and a truly flexible personality. We become whole, rather than just half of a stereotype.
Section 5. Daily Steps for Self-Reflection. The Map to Individuation.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? Because individuation isn't just some mystical, floaty state of mind. It is active, intentional work. Jung fundamentally believed our unconscious is trying to talk to us every single day, but it doesn't use English. It uses a totally different language. As the source material points out, dreams, symbols, and creative expression reveal important information from the unconscious. The signals are always bubbling up to the surface. We just need to cultivate the right tools and, frankly, the daily discipline to actually stop, pay attention, and decode what our deeper self is trying to tell us. So let's break down exactly how you can start doing this self-reflection work right now, today. Step 1 is to track your dreams and symbols. Keep a voice memo app ready or a physical journal right on your nightstand and record your dreams the very second you wake up, before your conscious ego has a chance to come in and filter them out. Step 2, notice your shadow triggers in real time. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel this blinding, totally uncharacteristic rage, or maybe a coworker gets a minor win and you feel physically sick with jealousy, stop right there. That disproportionate reaction is your shadow waving a massive red flag. Ask yourself, what part of me is actually feeling threatened right now? And finally, step 3, process the unconscious through creative expression. And look, you don't need to be Picasso for this. Just free write in a notebook without editing yourself, or physically draw the messy shape of your frustration. Just give the unconscious a physical, tangible outlet so it can move into your conscious awareness.
Section 6. The Integrated Self. Arriving at the Treasure. Through periods of confusion, inevitable inner conflict, and gradual insight, doing this daily self-reflection work eventually leads us to the ultimate destination. But listen, arriving at the integrated self doesn't mean you magically become this flawless, constantly smiling guru. An integrated person aligns their ego with their larger whole self. Because they've done the hard work of facing their shadow, they're highly aware of their inner motives and are far, far less driven by hidden reactive forces. They can act with pure intention. And honestly, perhaps the most beautiful trait of an integrated person is that they can hold the messy, conflicting parts of being human, the joy and the sorrow, the fear and the courage, without fragmenting. They've built a stable, unshakable sense of who they truly are.
So I want to leave you with this to chew on. Look inward today and ask yourself honestly, what hidden part of yourself will you integrate today? Will it be a shadow emotion you've been avoiding for years, or perhaps a beautiful, positive trait you've been way too afraid to let shine? The tools to find out are entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I wish you the absolute best of luck on your own inward hero's journey.